Okay, there's tricks sometimes to know if there is a zero between two values. So first of all, they said, is there a zero between -4 and -2? So what they're wanting you to do is find f of -4. So everywhere you see an x, you could plug in -4 and see what value you get. But again, remember, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like synthetic division if at all possible. So I'm going to use synthetic division. Remember, when you use synthetic division, you write down the coefficients. So that's a 1 and a 1 and a -6. And by the way, I need a 0 here because you have to have a value for every term. This is my x to my third, x to the second, x to the first, and then there is no constant. If this is to the third power, you have to have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. You always have one more than that. So if you don't put the 0 there, it's not going to work. So if I'm going to do this and I want to try what happens at -4, I'm going to plug this in and watch what I get. Whatever this value is, you drop it straight down and then you multiply on the diagonal. And then add up and down and then multiply on the diagonal. So that gives me a value of -24. And by the way, if you would plug a 4 in there, excuse me, a -4 in there, you're going to see you're going to get that same value. What this is it's also a point on the graph. So if you wanted, to graph this, that is a point, which is really cool. Okay, so also realize that this value is below, because it's negative, the x-axis. It's somewhere down here. Okay, they're wanting you to do that same thing for -2. So again, everywhere you see an x, you can plug in -2. Of course, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to use synthetic division because I like it. So this is what I'm going to try. I'm going to drop this straight down and then I'm going to multiply on the diagonal and then add up and down. That gives me what? 2 and -4 and 8. Okay, so now I've got the point -2, 8. So I am up, -2, 8 is somewhere up here. And I've got -4, -24 way down here. But you can see between here and here, it's going to have to cross somewhere in here. So I know there has to be an x-intercept or a 0 somewhere between -4 and -2. Now, it doesn't have to be at -3. It could be at -3.25. It could be at -2.9. Okay, I don't know that for sure, but I know there has to be one in between there. Now, if you watched my other video, we could factor this, okay, and find the zeros, but it didn't ask us to do that. I actually think 3 is a 0, -3, because watch, if I plug this in real quick, let's just try it for fun and see if it's a 0. If not, it's okay, but it'll give us a point. But watch this, if I drop 1 straight down and I multiply on the diagonal, and then I add up and down, oh my gosh, it is a 0. Okay, which is really cool. So it does intercept right there at -3. Okay. And by the way, I also know my end behavior, because this is odd and positive, that it's going to go down on the left and up on the right. So I know so much. Okay, now it wants to know, hey, is there a 0 between -1 and 3? Well, let's plug in -1 everywhere and see what you get. I am actually going to use synthetic division again, of course. And I'm going to plug in a -1. I'm going to drop this guy and multiply on the diagonal. That's 0, that's -6, that's 6, that's 6. So no, but that's okay. I've got a point. I've got the point -1, 6. If I wanted to graph that, we're back up here. Okay, and then, by the way, this is above the x-axis. It's positive, and it asks you that, I noticed on my math lab, if it's above or below. At least I'm pretty sure it did. Okay, so it also wants me to try this for 3. So I'm going to try 3. Woo! Sorry. So I'm going to drop that down. I get a 3, 4, 12, that's 6, that's 18, that's 18, and that's also above. So notice they're both above the x-axis. So between -1 and 3, I got these points up right here. So yeah, it's going to cross the y-axis somewhere, but I can't guarantee. It might cross the x-axis, but I can't guarantee that it will. The only way that I can guarantee that it will cross the x-axis, that there is a 0 between -1 and 3, is if these signs are different. It doesn't matter which one comes first, but I would need one to be positive and one to be negative for it to cross that x-axis. So I can't guarantee that there is a 0 between -1 and 3.